Hello and welcome to another edition of It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. So glad you could join me in the forest today. Got a really good show for you here. Might even be able to get you out early. We'll see if I don't go off on too many tangents and what have you there. I have a lot of things bouncing around my head this morning. I apologize ahead of time because I have talked about this subject before. I don't know if it was on this show a year ago. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it 2 years ago on Frank Weber's Party. But I just can't help myself. It's part of what shaped me. And this week, as I record this, I think the show is going to drop another few more days from now. But I can't help myself on this. But the kids in Canyon went back to school yesterday. And it's still hotter than hell outside. There's still, I guess at least 3 weeks of summer left, as we used to call summer. I mean, we used to start roughly around September 1st, and we had about 90 days roughly of summer. And now the kids start in middle of August, and they know it's middle of August, especially when they're coming home from school. Really have to feel for those who are walking home, actually, in this. And we've been pretty humid here this summer for Canyon. But anyway, the whole thing about going back to school really shapes who I am and who I've become in life. And I can't help but talk about it. And I know a lot of people out there are wondering, like, why the hell do I bring this subject up every year or whatever it is now? And you don't have any kids, Frank. Why are you so interested in this? And that's the reason, is because it kind of shaped who I was. They started doing this stuff in, what was it, about 1989, when they started moving up the start of the school year slowly, because they were trying to socially condition and groom and engineer everybody. And that's not just the kids. And we can get into a whole other ball of wax with what they may be teaching the kids in school these days, but they're also socially grooming the parents. And there seems to be a lack of interest in this subject from parents and the media for all of those 36 years now. I don't know why, but and this is going to sound a little conspiratorial, of course, but your kids are basically just a pawn in a money-making game for the school districts, is what it is. And, they go to school and you want them to have a quality education. Whether they get that or not depends on the district, but I can assure you that they are there because the school district needs money, and they get paid every day by the state if your kid shows up. So anyway, that's just my beef. There's been a lot of rhetoric and politics and stuff regarding that, and when the pool closes every year for all those years, the pool used to be open till Labor Day, and for a while in certain places they've tried to keep it open at least on weekends until Labor Day, even after school starts, and for some reason that doesn't work either. I don't know what it is, but I had a personal story, and this is why this has shaped me so much. But this started happening when I was 11 or 12, right? And so I was a bit of an early bloomer, and I was about to go into puberty. I was about to get all my body hair in my forest that makes up this show. And that was right about 6th grade. And you're talking about middle school and junior high, where kids' bodies are changing, and they're starting to sweat, and they're starting to smell. And I've always been a big sweaty guy with a very unique smell, apparently, is what my wife tells me. And all this stuff started happening, back in 89 and 90. And I had to, in some situations, in junior high and in high school until I was able to drive and I had my own set of wheels. I wound up having to take the bus to school, and the buses were not air conditioned. And for much of the year, they were fine to ride. But if you were starting in the middle of August, they were literal hell, temperature-wise and otherwise. And we started school so early, so when I got to school, I had trouble cooling off. And then it got really bad one year. I think I was a junior in high school. My school district in the high school that I was going to there decided to raise the temperature on the AC by a few degrees, and I had an even more difficult time cooling off because we went to school so darn early. And the kids were always wondering why I was so sweaty and why they thought I was nervous, or maybe I had some other kind of problem going on, but I don't know. Everybody back then was really concerned about what other people thought about them. I don't really care as much now, but back then it was a huge deal, and I don't know if people really realize how much it shapes you. And so anyway, if your kids haven't gone back to school yet in Texas or wherever, they obviously will pretty soon, but I would just implore you to think about them and think, it's hard to get in the minds of other people and realize what exactly that they're going through. And I don't think the weather at this particular point in the year, temperature-wise, really helps a lot. And kids are people too. We could learn a lot of things from kids. That doesn't mean that they should necessarily be running everything or interrupting adults or treating adults poorly or anything like that, but we can learn a lot from them. And I would implore you here in these next couple of weeks at least to think about them and think about what they're going through. I know some kids love school. They love to be back and love to be with their friends and learning and all that, but some of them probably felt like they needed a little bit more summer. Well, I always felt that way. Summer was very sacred to me, and it was that special, unique time of the year, and then it's kind of lost for 9.5 months now, or whatever it is. Even though they still have roughly the same number of days in school, they have more days out of school now, I think, because of the teachers' unions and things, but. Anyway, it was sacred to kids. We enjoyed our summers. We tried to do a lot of stuff. And when it was over, it wasn't quite like somebody had died, but, and we knew that there was going to be another summer ahead. But I would say just be sympathetic and thoughtful to them, and, be kind to them during this time. And that's really all I have to say about that. I went on for quite a few minutes actually on that, and hopefully that's provoked some thoughts in you on this, because I just never hear parents or the media or anything talk about these early school starts ever. They didn't do it 36 years ago, and they still don't do it now. And the school board and a lot of the teachers, they may be your friends and neighbors, but there's definitely some agendas with some of them out there, so you have to be a little bit careful. Oh, and to add one more thing quickly, I know I mentioned the story about the AC in my junior year in high school. I was driving around in my car by then and going to and from school in my car, and I had AC in the car, but in a lot of cases I had to walk a ways through the heat and the mugginess in order to get inside to school. And then when you got inside to school, it didn't feel like as much of a relief. And it took like an hour or two to really calm down. I mean, it was really a unique and unfortunate situation in that regard. So that's why I'm mentioning it to you. It's kind of funny now. I guess I could kind of laugh about it. Hopefully it's a little bit lighthearted, but, like I said, give some thought to the kids. Anyway, now I want to expound on some entertainment thoughts and reviews that I brought up last week. I went and saw the new Naked Gun movie. I wasn't sure that I would have 2 or 3 months ago. I was pretty much kind of against a lot of, I don't know what they call this. It'll be a reboot sequel or something. I'm not even sure about the terminology anymore. But I went and I got curious enough that I decided to go and see it the other day, and I'm going to review it here in a second. I do want to finish up my thought, though, on the new King of the Hill. I did finish the first season. I think there was only 10 episodes there on Hulu, and I think they're supposed to do at least a second season. I don't know when that's going to be out, or if there could be more after that. Seems like they have plenty of material, though. But for some reason, the streaming stuff, it's like they don't want to do a lot of seasons, and they don't do a lot of episodes per season. And I don't know why they can't just put it on regular TV anymore. However, the fact that it's on streaming, this new King of the Hill, even though it's pretty much like the old show, except the characters are older, it does have a little bit more of an adult edge to it. And they do occasionally say some swear words, cussing, like shit or something like that. But I highly recommend it. It was always an underrated show when it was on Fox, and football going long, it wound up getting joined in progress, which does nothing for you to keep up with the plot and everything. I never understood that, but I would definitely check it out if you are from Texas and understand Texas culture and the interplay between traditional and fairly conservative values with new things in society that are not necessarily, I would say, progress. A lot of times I think they're, like we were just talking about, social conditioning or social engineering things. Hank Hill is a very sympathetic figure in that show. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about the new Naked Gun movie, which I've already talked about like a couple of times before, including last week. The trio of Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker did not work on this film as they did on the original Naked Gun and the Police Squad TV series before that, and Airplane and some others that they did. That's disappointing. They had an opportunity, it sounded like, but then I don't know how serious Hollywood was in giving them another chance. So a different group made this movie. And there's some recognizable names in there, like Liam Neeson playing Frank Drebin Jr. and Pam Anderson, who has aged seemingly very gracefully, even though she had a lot of work done in the past. And I'm always kind of sketchy about that. But anyway, it still managed to look pretty beautiful, and she still looks great now for her age. And anyway, enough on that. But I thought some of the gags, which is what the word plays and the sight gags and stuff, I thought some of them were very original. So I have to give them a lot of credit for that. But it kind of stung me a little bit, though, because when they had the originality, a lot of the crowd that I was with, which wasn't a large crowd, it was a weekday afternoon, as summer is winding up, the new gags didn't get a lot of laughs, and for whatever reason, but there was a lot of recycled gags in there as well, from the old Naked Gun films or the Police Squad series, as well as some other films that you may recognize if you watch it. Overall, I thought the plot was kind of weak, and the movie was kind of uneven. And I guess I would give them an A for effort, but it just, a lot of movies nowadays don't really sit well with me. They don't move me. They don't entertain me and, kind of take me to a different place for the hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever they last for. And this one didn't really do it for me either. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, they strayed from some of the spoof formula as well, which I mentioned sometime before. There's one of the rules that the Zuckers had was to, if you're doing slapstick, you can kind of stretch reality, of course, but you don't want to get into the realm of fantasy. And there's more fantasy in there than just the scene in the trailer where Frank Drebin Jr., played by Liam Neeson, starts out as a little girl and then unzips himself to become Frank Drebin Jr., the hero, at a robbery. And it just doesn't work for me, I kind of think, and I like Liam Neeson, I like Pam Anderson. Apparently Priscilla Presley also, who played Jane Spencer Drebin, who was Frank Sr.'s love interest in the first 3 films and became his wife. She has a small cameo just as a viewer watching the fight scene, the UFC-ish type fight scene later in the movie. And speaking of a lot of plastic surgery, unfortunately, for her as well. But you can tell that if you watch closely, you can tell that it's her, but she has no lines. So there's not really a connection with the past other than, the scene where they're talking about each other's pictures, and I don't know if they're praying to them or they have shrines for all the old police squad for Drebin and Ed, and but they don't really have a Nordberg per se. I guess that may have been Nordberg, but it was Nordberg. It wasn't OJ, and then they have to make a comment about OJ's fall from grace. But that was OJ. It wasn't Nordberg, so there wasn't really a true Nordberg, I guess, except for that one guy who had like one scene and one line in the movie. And then there weren't some of the other characters either. It was kind of disappointing in that regard. But yeah, I'm tempted to say overall they just shouldn't remake classics like that. And it's going to be, you have to have everything in place. And if you want to compare it perhaps to, and I know this is somewhat apples and oranges, you're comparing a movie series to, and it's TV origin to another series that happens to be animated, but King of the Hill works because it has the same showrunners and writers and mostly the same characters, and so they can bring it back, and they have a lot more material nowadays to kind of poke fun of. But Naked Gun, on the other hand, doesn't have that. But I guess, I'd probably give it a very, very average rating. I think if you want to see it, go ahead and see it. If you don't, then don't. But I'm interested in comedy, and that's why I'm commenting on this today. One last thing I might say about the movie, I don't know if there needs to be more thought that goes into this type of thing. I know I mentioned I have thoughts running all over my head all day, every day, and it's kind of a prison of its own, to be honest with you. But one of the things that needs to go into it, more often, and I don't know if there's a lot of time and energy and money spent on casting. Like, I like Liam Neeson and I like Pam Anderson, but I don't know if their chemistry or the chemistry with other characters was necessarily all that great. Like Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley in the old ones. If you have a likability of character and a good chemistry between all the characters, not just the good guys, but the good guy with the bad guy, for instance, that goes a very long way to making a very, very likable or lovable and memorable movie. And I don't know if people do that much anymore. There was somebody on old movies, well, they're not really old, like 70s, 80s, maybe 90s, when there was somebody named Lynn Stallmaster and Associates. They had like a company in Los Angeles that basically all they did was casting for movies, and I guess they helped in screen tests or something like that. I don't know exactly what they do. I'm not an expert on it, but that person's name was on a bunch of movie credits for a long time, and now you don't really see that name or a lot of other names on there anymore. So you have to be very careful about likability and chemistry. That goes a very long way as to whether you have a successful movie. And I was really kind of disappointed. I don't go to a lot of movies anymore. Just one other rant here real quick, and then I'll wrap this up. But lots of previews and lots of commercials. I think the movie was supposed to start about 11:55, and it was definitely after 12:20, I think, before it began. And then the credits for Naked Gun, obviously they did some creative things with the credits, just like the original ones. So you should stay and watch those. But the credits were so freaking long for a movie that was only about 85 minutes in total. And of course, I stayed there to watch it all. By the way, of course, another link to the past who did have lines in the movie was Weird Al Yankovic. And had to mention that real quick. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show now right here. I don't really want to, before I do that, I don't really want to get into like a lot of preaching and a lot of faith-based stuff, but I just wanted to, I try to share a little bit about that here and there on the show. I know it's not something I do all the time, but I don't know where you are in your belief in God and faith and everything. I would tell you that if you're Christian or interested in Christianity, you need to look for or at least I would recommend you look for a church family. And you have to look for certain qualities in that. And I think number one is that they preach Jesus and the Word of God. Number two, they have a servant's heart where it's basically everybody serving everybody else, not, for instance, not only the followers and churchgoers serving the clergy or vice versa. It's everybody serving everybody else. And then thirdly, the priority needs to be on promoting Jesus and the faith, and not so much, of course, on other political or social agendas that may be an outgrowth of the faith. But the problem is people who are seeking are not going to be immediately interested in those agendas. They're going to be interested in what you can offer them faith-wise, and not what's your stance on, you can name a number of social agendas and political agendas. I'm not going to get into them here, but anyway, if you have those three things, then it may be a very worthy congregation or church for you. So I wanted to get that off my chest. Actually, that last point I really should have summed it up by saying they keep the faith simple. And they keep it simple, they keep it focused, and they don't stray onto these other agendas too much. So there you are. Thank you for being with me here again in the forest this week, and I'm going to try to get some lighter shows. I hope this was a fairly lighter show for you. I don't really like to delve into, there's that word delve. I had a professor tell me that delve was too much of a AI word, but everybody seems to be using it these days. But, and now I lost my train of thought here because I told you I would let you out early, but I'm still going here. But now I totally forgot where I was. But anyway, I don't want to delve into too deep of subjects. I just want to have a good time, enjoy it with you, enjoy it with other people. And we're still, I've been really busy, have a lot of things going on and on my mind, and I just looking forward to the future here. Continue to do this show and hang around, and the longevity is going to go a long way, I think. Even though I am planning on evolving this show to have guests and more fun times later. So anyway, for you, I just want to implore you, sharing is caring, of course. And please share this episode and any episode or all episodes that you like with friends, family, anybody you come across. Hit the subscribe button. And we'd love to hear a comment from you, or even a direct message from you. I think that would be terrific. And I'll try to respond to those as much as I can, but I don't get a lot of comments for some reason. And I don't know what the exact reasoning is, but I'm confident in this show, and I'm confident of where it will go. So anyway, thank you so much. God bless you. I love you. And I'm going to wrap it up here. So this is your host, Frank Weber, signing off from the forest on It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. We'll see you again next week. Bye.